earlier for a closed session, but welcome tonight, and would you stand for our pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. We invite you into our meeting tonight to lead us and guide us in making the right decisions for Nashville and for your divine protection. Amen.
Amen.
Let's look at our minutes. The first minutes that we need to approve are the October 28th, 2020 meetings. Are there any corrections to those minutes?
Being no corrections, I move we approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving those minutes, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Look at the November the 3rd minutes. Are there any corrections to those minutes?
Yes, the corrections on page 1, at the bottom of the page.
Oh, yes.
It said Councilmember Hobbs made a motion, and Councilmember Hobbs seconded.
Right.
So that needs to be cleaned up.
So I just want to say, for the record, I did give Sarah some corrections. I think it was on each one of the minutes.
Okay.
So long as those are incorporated, I don't have any further issues with any of them, but that was one of them.
Okay, good. So with the corrections made, do I hear a motion that we approve the November 3rd minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
The November 3rd minutes are approved. Now let's move to November 18th. Those minutes, are there any corrections to those minutes? If not, do I hear a motion that we approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Those minutes are approved for November the 18th. December the 1st, are there any corrections to those minutes?
There is a correction on second page. When Kate was nominated for mayor pro tem,
Uh-huh.
according to our charter, we nominate a new mayor pro tem after a municipal election, not a general election. So your term was for 2 years,
Oh,
so we didn't need to make that nomination.
Okay.
But if you check the charter,
Thank you for doing that, Louise. Do I hear a motion that we approve the December 1st minutes
So
with
made.
that correction?
So made.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
The December 1st, 2020 minutes are approved. Let us move on to our next item on our agenda, and that's the planning board appointment. Patsy McGee has resigned from the planning board, and our planning and development director recommends appointing Jay Mantell to serve the remainder of Ms. McGee's term, which will expire December the 31st, 2022. Ms. Mantell has expressed an interest to serve on the town of Nashville's planning board. Is Ms. Mantell
She do. Yes,
here by any chance?
she is, in the back.
Oh, I can't see because of, thanks, I can't see because of that. Thank you for coming, and do I hear a motion that we approve her nomination for this, or appointment to this planning board?
Move to
So
approve.
moved. Mayor Brown, another person has applied, and I don't know if, and that was brought to my attention this afternoon. Ray, are you?
Do you know who that is, Louise?
I think it was Cindy Puckett.
She came and picked up an application today.
Okay.
But she did not return it completed.
No, she just came and picked it up today, so that wouldn't have made time to do an agenda report.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering if we should table this until that person is filled out.
Maybe if we have another applicant, we might
Yeah.
have somebody on the planning board that.
Oh.
I
Yeah.
hadn't received it. She just picked up her
She hadn't
application.
turned it in.
She hadn't returned, she hadn't submitted it yet.
Okay.
I think we need to go with the.
Yeah, so do I hear a motion that we are, appoint Ms. Mantell to the planning board?
so moved.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 So welcome to the planning board, Ms. Mantell. We appreciate your service on the board. Our next item is a public hearing on the partial street closures of Elm Street and Court Street. I'm going to read the summary, and then I will let Mr. Boone speak, and then the people, okay? At the council's meeting on December the 1st, 2020, the council voted to move forward with advertising and holding a public hearing on the potential closure of a portion of Elm Street from Drake Street to North Body Street and a portion of Court Street from Elm Street to 140 feet north of Court Street, Elm Street intersection to accommodate a proposed expansion of the Nash County Detention Facility. As required by state statute, the public hearing scheduled for tonight was advertised in the newspaper, the Nashville Graphic, 4 times, December the 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st. Per the town's street closure policy, certified letters were also sent to impacted property owners and residents along Elm Street and Court Street, informing them of the January 5th public hearing. In addition, yard signs were placed along the portion of the 2 streets slated for closure that say, "Street closing public hearing 7 p.m., January the 5th, 2021, in the Town Council Chambers, 114 West Church Street, with the phone number of the Town Hall." The council is able to make a determination on this item later in the meeting if deemed appropriate. So at this time, in your packet, you had the mapping for this. So, would the people like to speak at this time? State your name, please.
Yes, ma'am. Pull this down just so you can hear me a little better. My name is Alan Wilson. I am currently assigned as a major at the Nash County Sheriff's Office over our detention center. As you're aware, we are in the process of adding a new addition to our detention facility. And that detention facility add-on will be at the basically at the back of the facility, on the back right directly behind the sheriff's office. Currently, that area has a parking area, and it also has an exercise area that is used in case there's an emergency in the jail to move inmates to. That's an area that we would have to, in case of a fire or some other type of emergency, we have to have somewhere to move them to. Well, currently, that's where the new facility will be built, and it's going to be built very close to the roadway on Elm Street. So with that in mind, that takes away that safety buffer on the street that we currently have. Also, it takes away the ability to have somewhere to move the inmates to in time of need. And at the back of our facility, we have a loading dock, and typically 5 or 6 deliveries a week are being brought in, large trucks bringing in food and different things of that nature. So I think the proposal that is being brought to the board is that that section of Elm Street would allow a buffer, so it would give some room so contraband can't be passed. It would give some room for safety and security of that new addition of the facility. It would also allow for area to be in place, so if inmates in that new addition had to be moved out because of fire or whatever the case may be, that we had somewhere to safely move them to. And also, it would give the trucks that are coming in and out, it would give them a way to actually turn and back into the facility. Now they're turning off of the side street and they have a way to back in and out, and it really doesn't affect traffic the way it currently is, but coming in and out with the new way is going to actually block traffic quite a bit in and out. And then by the gates being open so close to the building, it provides another security risk when the trucks are in and trucks are coming out. So I think by blocking off that section of the road, it actually adds quite a bit of security to the new addition that we're putting in on the facility.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? You could speak a minute, John.
Unfortunately, for you, yes. I appreciate the opportunity to address the town council this evening, again regarding this matter with the proposed expansion of the Nash County Detention Facility and the requested closure of Elm Street. I have a PowerPoint presentation I'll share with you. I apologize, a lot of the information you've already seen before, but not knowing who might come tonight, who had not attended one of the previous meetings, want to make sure they had a good understanding of the nature of the request and really the logic behind the requested closure.
Someone dim the lights, please.
Thank you. So first, just to orient us, I think most of the folks here tonight know where the jail is located, but you can see in the aerial I have on the screen here, the most prominent feature being the new courthouse. The detention facility is located in the rear of the block of Washington Street, which is Main Street, Drake Street, Elm Street, which is the portion that we're requesting the town consider closing, and Body Street. And this is the existing footprint of the jail. The proposed addition is here in the northwest quadrant of this block, and I've got a schematic I'll show you, provide a little bit more detail about what we're proposing here. And this is the entrance, if you've ever had occasion to visit the jail, this is the entrance to the facility off of Body Street. So again, as Alan mentioned, this is the rear. It's not showing the existing parking lot. There's 15 parking spaces here, again, in this northwest quadrant of the jail. There's dumpsters for solid waste disposal, and Alan mentioned the loading dock here. As it exists today, deliveries are taken off of Drake Street. They back into the parking lot, which is located here, and then they load into the loading dock. But with the addition of the 94 beds that we're looking at in this addition to the jail, that consumes that real estate, consumes really most of the available real estate in this portion of the block. A very little buffer left between the proposed building and the existing back of curb on Drake Street and on Elm Street. And again, thus, this led us to the request to consider a partial closure of Elm Street on the north side of the jail. Again, mentioning existing site constraints, proposed building is roughly 70 feet wide north-south, 150 feet across east-west, approximately 11,000 square foot on the first floor. It is two levels with a mezzanine to provide those 97 beds that I mentioned. And with the footprint for the proposed building, that leaves about 17 feet clear distance between the existing facility and the new building to access that loading dock. And as it exists today, a tractor trailer will have to back 100 feet into the site to reach the loading dock from Elm Street. And I mentioned, again, we're using most of the available square footage in that portion of the block. The existing footprint of the building is about 5 feet off the back of curb from Drake Street and Elm Street, right in the radius of the intersection that I showed you earlier. So here, approximately 5 feet in that radius of Drake and Elm. So I mentioned that the 94-bed addition will displace 15 parking spaces behind the jail. Alan referred to the emergency evacuation area should there be an incident facility where they need to bring inmates out. We have an existing fenced-in area with concertina wire on the top of it where they would move those inmates. We would lose that with this proposed addition, and then the dumpsters that we have on site for solid waste disposal, those will be impacted by the proposed improvements. Again, I also mentioned the loading dock. Although we now access that from Drake Street with the addition of the building, we would have to access that from Elm Street, and that would require a tractor trailer to either park on street or preferably, if we could bring that truck into a secure area, back into the site from Elm Street to the loading dock. And as Alan mentioned, we currently receive about 5 to 6 deliveries per week to the jail. Now, if you're familiar with the jail and you've driven by the facility on Drake or Elm Street, you may notice there is no security fencing in that portion of the facility today. So when the jail takes deliveries to the loading dock, there are occasions where they will use inmate workers to unload that truck. So when that happens, there is nothing standing between those inmates and and escaping than just the detention officer that's out there with them and just their good behavior. So that is a concern that we have. As you know, we have had a couple of inmate escapes. There's not been an issue with an inmate worker in this portion of the facility, but it is a concern and one that we hope to address with the proposed improvements at the jail. Again, if as it stands today, if we leave Elm Street open, we probably still would look to try to add that additional level of security with security fencing, but that fencing would be located about 4.5 feet from the building face at the closest point. Really not ideal. We'd like to have a little bit more separation. One, to assist with monitoring that area. There will be security cameras there, and to just give the detention officers more time to react should there be an escaped attempt in that portion of the facility. So in terms of how we arrived here today, you may recall first approached the council back in September with a request to close a portion of Elm Street from Drake Street to North Court Street. So that one block, it's really not a full block. It was really about 150 feet of Elm Street. That's kind of a short block. And at that time, there were a couple of concerns that were raised by council members about the potential diversion of traffic on Elm Street, north on the Court Street and into that residential area north of the jail. And the town council also asked that based on those concerns, I believe, at least as I understood it, that the county evaluate the possibility of constructing a new road between Court Street and Drake Street, and or a possible realignment of Drake Street on the west side of the facility. Based on that feedback, we reevaluated our request, recognized it certainly is a valid concern about the potential for the diversion of traffic off of Elm Street into that residential area north of the jail. You may recall at the September 25th meeting, Mr. Lansing reported that the DOT, at his request, had taken some traffic counts on Elm Street the week prior to the meeting, I believe it was, and over a 24-hour period, it counted about 310 vehicles. Well, based on our knowledge of the area, since we're located immediately adjacent to the jail, we felt like most of the traffic was county related to the sheriff's office. But certainly knowing the number of vehicles was good information, but we felt like it may be helpful to know or have a better feel for how much of that traffic is related to the residences north of the jail, and I'll get to that in a minute. But again, was a valid concern that if we requested and the town approved the closure of Elm Street from Drake to Court, there was a potential for traffic coming from the east or westbound Elm Street heading towards the jail. If they did not turn on Body Street and head up to Washington Street, they could be facing a situation where they had to turn right on the court to reverse course. So based on that concern, we thought it may be more beneficial to consider a closure of Elm Street from Drake Street on the west to Body Street to the east. So that would eliminate the potential for vehicles that bypass Body Street and then be faced with a situation where, if it's not related to jail traffic, or say a delivery to the loading dock, having to turn right onto Court Street. So again, I've got some more information to share with you about that. But again, we amended our request based on some of the concerns that were shared with us back in September. And as I'll show in the next graphic, based on the revised request and the closure of Elm from Drake to Body, we also were requesting a partial closure of Court Street, approximately 140 feet north of Elm Street. And based on that closure, we have recommended or proposed to construct a hammerhead turnaround at the new termination of Court Street, again, should the request be approved. And this is that graphic here. So again, recall the September 25th request was a closure from Drake to Court. And the situation that would create it is if traffic westbound on Elm Street were to bypass Body Street, they would get to this intersection. This would be closed. and either if they were not related, if it was not traffic related to the jail, they'd either have to basically conduct a U-turn or turn right on Court Street and then head up to Bell Street and come back to Body or over to Drake. So the amended request was to extend the closure from Drake to Body, and with that closure would include a portion of Court Street. This will be a hammerhead turnaround for any traffic, residential or emergency response. Should they need to respond to an incident on Court Street, they could come to this hammerhead, back in, reverse course, and exit this location. So that is the amended request. I should also say with the additional closure, this will allow security fencing to be extended across Elm Street, increasing that distance between the north face of the facility and the security fencing. This will be the area that the tractor trailers would use so they could reverse course and back into the loading bay and then come back out. And again, this just provide a buffer on the north side of the facility that we do not have today. I mentioned those traffic counts. Again, the counts that the NCDOT took in late September, 310 vehicles. That was 24 hours, over a 24-hour period. We did not take counts over 24 hours. We elected to take turning movement counts. We actually posted a county employee, several county employees, over the course of 12 hours to determine, with the traffic on Elm Street, where is it coming from and where is it going. Long story short, most of the traffic on Elm Street is not related to the residents north of the facility. You can see here, westbound on Elm Street, there were 14 vehicles that turned right onto Drake and headed north. There were 12 vehicles that returned from the north on Drake coming south and turned left on Elm Street. 8 that went straight through on Drake Street heading to Washington Street, and 5 vehicles that came from the parking lot or this end of Elm Street and turned left and headed north on Drake. So over that 12-hour period, we counted 268 vehicles. Recall again, the DOT 2 count over 24 hours was 310. So we captured about 86% of the average daily traffic that you would expect on Elm Street behind the jail. And again, of that 268, 39 vehicles we attribute to, although some of those vehicles could have been vehicles that parked in this parking lot, we didn't really differentiate of those 14 being access to the parking lot. But to be conservative, we said 39, so 15% of the traffic on Elm Street we would say is related to this residential area. Most of it's not related. It's county traffic or vehicles that are attempting to bypass Washington Street, at least to the point of Drake Street and coming behind the jail. You can see here 105 vehicles, so almost a third of the traffic, really more than a third, because it's 105 out of 268 turned left on Drake and came up to Washington Street. So again, most of that traffic, by and large, is not related to the residents north of the jail, at least based on the counts that we took on October 7th. So as far as the advantage of the requested closure of Elm Street, mentioned it allows for access to the loading dock, so tractor trailers to enter the facility into a secured area, back across Elm Street. Mentioned those 310 vehicles. In the absence of that, if we were to try to back across that street, we would have a tractor trailer backing blindly across that street, and 310 vehicles with the potential to encounter one or more of those 310 vehicles while executing that maneuver. Again, with the closure of Elm Street, we can push that security fencing further north, allows us to create a larger secured area. Should there be emergency in the facility, should we need to load inmates into buses and carry them off-site, it gives us a staging area within a controlled perimeter that we would not have without the closure of Elm Street. Also, as Alan mentioned, as it exists today, again, if you've traversed Elm Street, you will notice right on the back side of the facility, we've got exercise yards. In one case, you're within maybe 15 feet of an exercise, one of the outdoor exercise areas. There have been issues there with family members or associates of inmates passing contraband back and forth into the facility. Again, and by pushing that security fencing further out, we create more of a buffer and minimize the likelihood of contraband coming into the facility, which is a significant concern. Also provides additional room for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing equipment that we need for that additional 94-bed addition. Again, I mentioned the buffer zone, and it provides for increased response time or a little additional response time for the officers should there be a escape attempt. And I mentioned the evacuation area and the assembly area. In terms of where we are with the project architect, Mosley Architects, has completed conceptual design. We've made our first submittal to the state, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and we're expecting preliminary comments back from them shortly. We actually anticipate a more detailed submittal later this month. We're anticipating an 8 to 10 week turnaround. That may be a bit optimistic in a COVID environment, but that is what we're hoping for. Which would have us getting hopefully the project out to bid in April of this year, April 21, with a recommendation by the county commissioners to award the project in May, and then starting construction in the summer, and then we anticipate an 18-month construction period. So that would have us hopefully opening the facility in November of 2022. So again, our requested action is requesting the town consider our request for the closure and approve the closure of Elm Street from Drake Street to Body Street and North Court Street from 140 feet north of Elm Street for all the reasons previously mentioned. Like I said, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Boone, where are you gonna move your dumpsters to? Would they be in the fenced-in area?
They will. They will be within that secured area because oftentimes, again, inmate workers are used to dispose of solid waste. So having that within a secured area certainly will be a significant improvement over what we have today. Yes, sir.
Could you put your overhead aerial picture back up? So I'm thinking we'll probably have some members of the public that want to speak, and it would be helpful to have that after reference.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will, one more thing I'll mention right quick. I did take the opportunity, I know we had a question about this before, about how many residences we have north and west of the jail. Counted those today. There appears to be 13 structures. 2 of those appear to be dilapidated. One is, matter of fact, I believe this one right here has a roof that's caved in. I think it has fire damage. And this facility, this building here has a skin on it. Has some OSB and some roofing, but other than that, it's completely open. So we have 6 structures south of Bell Street, or 6 south of Bell Street, 5 north of Bell Street. So it's 11, appears to be 11 occupied dwellings in that area, and a church.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
To get to Drake Street, you would have to go up to Vale and come down. That would be the only way to use Drake Street unless you went into the municipal parking lot
If you're on Elm Street or just in general?
in general.
In general, so you would access Drake Street from one of 2 ways. From the east, you could come on Elm Street and you could pass through that residential area. But again, out of that 300 vehicles, we're reasonably confident most of that is related to the sheriff's office. Or you would access Drake Street from Washington Street and turn right into the parking lot there at Barnes Street, and then you'd access Drake Street from the parking lot, which, if you remember those traffic counts, there, I can go back to those. The day we count on October 7th, there was 82 vehicles, 82 out of 244 vehicles came. Some may have come off of this, but that's an unimproved street to the west of the jail. I'm reasonably confident most of those 82 vehicles came out of this parking lot. And you can see there were, at least on that day, there were 11 vehicles that came out of that parking lot and accessed Drake Street. So that would be the 2 ways that I would see you would access Drake Street. Stay on Washington Street, and that's the main arterial through town, and would use the parking lot as these 82 vehicles did on the day we took our traffic counts.
So in other words, if you have a reason to be on Drake, you can access it those two ways. But if you're just using Drake as your out, you can use Body instead.
So
Yeah,
that puts a lot of pressure on Body Street.
Well, if 105 vehicles on Body Street, I don't think would be a heavy lift for Body Street based on current traffic volumes, but it certainly would add some traffic volume to Body Street.
And in turn, more traffic on Washington Street.
105 vehicles, yes, ma'am. And I believe Washington Street is probably has 3,000 to 4,000 vehicles on it, and capacity is probably about 12,000 to 15,000.
There was a woman with a question in the back behind you. Did you still have a question?
Yes, I think he answered my question. My name is Belle Average, I'm a resident of.
Can you just step up to the microphone so we can get you on recording?
Step up and present your name and your address, honey.
My name is Belle Arrington. I'm at 843 South Brooklyn Boulevard, Nashville. My reason here tonight is I'm a member of St. Luke Missionary Baptist Church, which is 204 Drake Street.
Uh-huh.
And I was concerned our in and outs, and I believe our in and out will be through the parking lot. I don't think we'll be going back up Drake Street and coming around, because we used to come in from Elm Street, that's the way I come, Austin Street to make a left on Elm Street and come down to the church, then out. And the one coming from 58 up by Body Street, they usually cut through the parking lot to get to the church. So right now, it seems like our only way in and out is through the parking lot, correct?
We do Washington Street, Barnes Street primarily.
Yes. Okay, that's what I want to find, we wanted to find out. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other residents of these streets or this area that would like to speak?
And if you are, do you completely understand what the proposal is to close? Do you understand what we're talking about doing?
Hi, I live on the Bell Street, the area that he said was uncompleted, Bell Street. I
Yeah.
live in that area. I'm living right over behind the church,
Right.
and I use Elm Street all the time. That's gonna make me complicated for getting out, in and out of my house. So that's why I'm not understanding why they just can't buy some land and build somewhere else.
Tell us
Because
your name.
it is really complicated. I live in that area, and that's the only way to get in and out, except for going through the parking lot, which is very unlevel.
And your name is?
Janice Sims.
Okay, Janice Sims.
So coming out, you could use Drake, but coming in, you would have a problem. Because you'd have to go through the parking lot or up and over.
The only way I could would come in and out the parking lot. That's it. I could go around Drake, but it'd take me all around to get to where I had to go to work at. Because I generally use Elm Street every day to go in and out every day. And that would just take me all out of the way just to get to where I need to go to. And going through the parking lot, you never know when the passageway is going to be blocked by the deputy sheriff's cars, and they do block the way. So you can't get through that sometimes.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other residents that would like to speak? Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Madam Mayor, my name is Donald Street. I live on Golfers Lane, 112. I've been a resident of Nashville a long, long time. And when I came to Nashville, the jail was in the courthouse. And that jail got condemned. Matter of fact, almost all the jails in the state got condemned. And there had to be some jail building going on to bring these things up to human standard. The product that we originally had built behind the jail, behind the sheriff's office, was part of that activity. At that point in time, I was working with the Department of Correction, which in those days was the Division of Prisons. The sheriff at that time was Frank Brown. And Frank solicited me to become his head jailer. And I spent some time looking at the jail, talking to Frank. I made an observation. that sooner or later, probably later than sooner, the entire jail will be in the wrong place. This has happened all over North Carolina. Jails attached to courthouses have been moved out, gone into rural areas. Those counties that can afford to build those things have come together and built regional jails, of which there are several of those in North Carolina. The situation we're looking at here, we've got a jail that's been built piecemeal on top of piecemeal on top of piecemeal. The older parts of this thing are probably ready for rebuild pretty soon. And it's time now to consider going back to the drawing board, although I see the planners are already making their submissions, assume this is already a done deal. They need to go back and rethink this thing and ask the county commissioners to consider simply moving the entire facility. Now, here's the questions. How will that impact on Nashville? The story is if the jail moves, the courthouse will move. And all the law enforcement people find that this is very convenient because once they go out and get rebuilt to modern standards, every into secured areas, this place was built piecemeal as demands required things to happen. So it's time now to move to the next generation of thinking and move forward. And now's a good time to do it too because money's very cheap. How will it impact Nashville? Well, people in the jail don't put much money in the national economy. However, they do use it necessary for what you have to do. So building down this thing, keeping the facility to hold people who are in transit would be a sensible thing. It would also create land. Land in Nashville is becoming a premium. County land is particularly desirable. They need more parking. They're going to need more offices. Their service is going to have to require more space. The old jail would probably fit some of that in rebuild. I would suggest just taking it down and building into it in administrative things as time comes along. Also, you've got to let parking. Time to raise parking frames around town. Around here, they call parking decks. All these things have to be done to look into the future. And the plan they're putting right here is adding old stuff to old stuff. It's a whole bad plan. The whole thing's ill-conceived. But it makes good sense for the spot. It fits, it's got a good vernacular with the community. Closing Elm Street is going to be disastrous because I go through that 6 or 7 times a week. Moving all the traffic into that parking lot is going to be a great disaster because that parking lot is not prepared to carry this kind of weight, or any kind of weight at all. If you've been across it, it's got all kinds of swales in it. There was a plan one time to build a street off of Barnes Street, hook around by St. Luke's Church and hook on to Elm Street, but I guess they'll kill all that plan now. But you still build one over there to the church, which would help the lady who lives up on Vale Street. Anyway, I can say much more. You don't hear much more. I'm talking about something that maybe seem radical, but it's going to maintain the integrity of Nashville. It's going to get the jail out where the sheriff will be happy with it so he can control what he's got. This is totally uncontrolled. This is a disaster waiting to happen. Even the plans for the logistics, so the trucks coming in and bringing things, that's a torturous plan. When I was in the prison business, I would never have a truck backing into a concealed area. Never, ever. That's death. That's waiting to happen. Anyway, the other point I wanted to make has to do with aesthetics. We've got a beautiful town. Drive downtown, we show people off. We look down the street, there's an old ugly jail sitting there with concertina wire all over it. You want one of those things downtown? I mean, hide it. You do something to it. It's just ugly to start with. So, I'd like to propose that each of you consider delaying the action on this thing, going back to the drawing board, talking with the commissioners to see if they can move into the future and plan for the future and not add on, because in 10 years you'll be adding more stuff here. These 94 cells you're going to build, they're going to be full overnight. I would suggest that you table this tonight, suspend the whole thing, go back and rework a plan to get the whole jail out of town, build a plan for the territory you're going to evacuate, and come back with a real plan, and not just a piecemeal thing like this is happening, because we need the jails now, of course. But you're not going to build it any faster now than you would out in the county someplace. Now, you don't have to go that far in the county. You just have to have a secure area, which you do not have there. I can see 15 soft spots on that thing right now, just looking at it from my experience in the past. Anyway, thank you for your time. Council, appreciate it. Mr. Engineer, you've got a good plan there. Wrong place. Sheriff, you got my sympathy with this plan. Okay, thank you very much. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
evening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Would it be appropriate to respond to any of the concerns that
Yes.
Mr. Street raised? I may not be able to hit them all, so I may need some help with that. The thing I would say first about the concerns that Mayor Street raised about the age facility, the method in which it was constructed, as part of the renovation to the jail, that older section that he referenced during Mr. Brown, Frank Brown, Sheriff Brown's tenure, will be renovated. That will, for the most part, no longer be used to house inmates. It's actually going to be renovated for an administrative area in the jail. And the beds that we'll add in this 94-bed addition, the architect that we have assisting the county on this project is Mosley Architects. They have done most of the work in North Carolina on jail construction, so we're not working with an architect that is unfamiliar with the design and the operation of jails. And the other point I would make is any plans that we submit will be reviewed by the state of North Carolina, by the Department of Health and Human Services, who has the legal responsibility for oversight of county and state-owned jail facilities in North Carolina. So I would lean towards the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services in terms of their expertise in reviewing the plans that we have submitted and to advise us on any concerns that they have. Again, nothing will be constructed without their final approval. As far as the inmate population, certainly we expect inmate population to change over time. I will say one of the things certainly we're dealing with right now in this COVID environment, and we've certainly seen it in Nash County, seen it throughout the state, throughout the nation, and Alan may be able to, a little better equipped to speak to this, but anticipate with jail reform issues that jail populations may not increase as quickly as they have in the past. What we've seen, and I think we've seen in our county, we have sent more inmates home, and to my knowledge, we have not had any inmates in Nash County. I've heard very little in our state with those inmates creating issues. So I think there's going to be a movement towards jail reform that may minimize the need for future expansion above and beyond where we are today. We certainly think this 94-bed addition is going to take us at least 20 years into the future, if not further. As far as building a new facility out in the county, certainly if you're looking at the range of options, I guess that's an option you should always consider. The point that I would make is the county has a significant investment in this block of Nashville. And to abandon the investment that the county has here and to relocate a facility out in some rural portion of the county, you're probably looking at a $70+ million investment. And that, for a county the size of Nash County, would be a significant investment. The commissioners, I think would be safe to say, have the chairman here tonight, I guess he can correct me if he sees fit, struggled a bit with finding the $10 million to afford this 94-bed addition and the renovation to the existing facility. To find another $60 million, I think would be a significant impact for the county. I don't know what the implications would be for the tax rate, but I'm guessing 67 cents per meal is probably, 67 meals probably going to be a bit of a stretch to get that done. So that would require a lot of soul searching for the county to decide to make that move. I think we feel comfortable where we're at. We've requested the closure of Elm Street because we think it enhances the operation facility, provides some additional safety measures. We recognize we're downtown, and we want to make that facility as safe as we can. But in all honesty, if Elm Street is not closed, in all likelihood, we're going to make the best of the situation that we have in front of us. We're going to make that facility as safe as we can, and we're still going to build a 94-bed addition right here in the corner of Drake and Elm Street. So I can't remember if there's any other issues that maybe Mr. Street raised that I should speak to.
No logistics issue, back in your trucks and.
Yeah, so again, trucks back into the facility today, certainly it's not ideal. I guess you could design a pass-through to take deliveries. There are 5 or 6 a week. Again, in the absence of the closure, they'll have to park on Elm Street and they'll have to cart the equipment, or excuse me, the food or any other items they're delivering into the facility. Certainly not ideal, but if the choice is between a $10 million expansion and a new $70 million facility off-site, and then all the logistical challenges that will create in terms of transporting inmates into town and putting them in a facility for holding until their court date and time, and then moving them back. Again, I think what we're gonna see, you're gonna see a 94-bed addition here, and we're gonna do the best we can to secure that facility with the real estate we have available.
Thank you very much.
How much do you plan to spend on renovating the old part of jail?
The total project, the 94-bed addition and the renovation to the 1977 portion of the facility is within the $10 million budget that the county commissioners have approved for this project.
In the, how much?
I have a question for you.
10 million.
For John.
You said 1977.
Yes, sir. Portion you've referenced under Sheriff Brown.
Mr. Excuse me, Counsel,
I want to ask a question, if I could, Jonathan. One of the citizens was addressing the fact that they would have to use the parking lot next to the courthouse in order to access their property. And I've been in the parking lot, not recently, but I know that it does have some issues as far as people traveling on it on a regular basis. What sort of things might the county consider to try to make that a more palatable issue?
Yeah,
traveling?
so certainly there's some issues in this parking lot, and we will be looking at as part of our capital improvement plan. I mean, that's something that we'll need to continue to invest in and maintain over time. I mean, it requires maintenance. There's an area here, you're probably familiar with it, some settlement on the west side of that parking lot that we're gonna have to address, where I think maybe that extension back in the day was talking about a Barn Street would have passed through. But yes, that's one of the items we'll be looking at during our CIP planning this coming year.
How soon do you think you can move on that? Because there was some talk some years ago from the county commissioners that they would make a street from Barn Street all the way across over to where the church parking lot is and connect into Elm Street.
So the discussion about Barn Street extension, again, that predates me. I don't think that would be part of our conversation. The question that I understood was about the maintenance of the parking lot. And the parking lot certainly is under the county's purview, something that the county is responsible for maintaining. And we intend to include that in our request for our capital improvement program budget, similar to the budget that Town of Nashville approves every year for the parking lot. I do not anticipate us making a request to build a street.
Right.
Just to make some improvements to the parking lot.
To the parking lot
Yes, sir.
on the west side.
Yes, sir.
any other questions or input? Thank you so very much.
Robbie's coming.
Pardon? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you for the post.
That's okay, that famous post. Of course, I'm Robbie Davis, and I currently serve as chair of the county commissioners. I just want to make the council people here aware of a couple of things. Number one, Mayor Street mentioned a regional jail. I do want you to know that our board did consider doing that. We actually met with several counties, spent a lot of time with Halifax County, because they have some jail needs also. We did determine what the price would be to locate the facility out of the downtown area. In the study, we had an extensive study done by Mosley Architects to show us what our options were moving forward, and had price tags put on each one of those options. They did not price regional jail, but because we were working with Halifax, which had recently looked at a new jail, we had some numbers that we felt comfortable with. And that jail would have been located in Nash County, but right at the line near as we went into Halifax County. That was not desired by the sheriff's department at all because of the transports that we would have to do, and really was an option for Halifax because they are using quite a bit of jail in Northampton County as they currently exist, so it didn't bother them too much because they used to transporting anyway. But as Mr. Boone mentioned, when we reviewed our options, looked at the price tag of each one of them, the citizens are not real keen on paying a lot of money to build a new jail. It would be, we did even consider doing it on a referendum, but once I studied that, I don't think it would ever pass because a jail is not a popular thing. They'd much rather have a new school or a new park or a new civic center than to build a new jail and put $50, $60 million in a jail. So I do think the plan that the commissioner settled on, which was to do extensive renovation in the facility that we had, do a 94 dorm addition in the back that had secured spaces in it, which is what we sorely need. The jail we have is mostly dormitory area, and we don't have anywhere to lock, don't have too many spaces to lock inmates down. I think an important part of the presentation that Mr. Boone had is where we are today with our jail needs. We were bumping 300 prior to COVID and prior to us actually getting into real serious, looking into our options for the jail. But today we average somewhere around 120. I think it was actually maybe 123 or 117. Somewhere in that area is where we average today. Certainly it will come back up some, I think, when we start having court. One reason when we have started having court, but we went a long time without having court. And we got everybody out that we could get out. But I think, like many other things, we have learned to do things different during the COVID period. I think, there's a lot of bad things going on with COVID, but certainly we've learned some positive things also. And I do believe one of them will be, in all my reading, that we will have less need moving forward for building more and more jail space, because we've learned different ways to let inmates out quicker and not hold so many in there in different changes in the Fair Sentencing Act. So I do want you to know the Commissioner did spend quite a bit of time before we move forward with the plan that we have adopted, and any consideration you would give it to the closure that we've asked for would be greatly appreciated by our board, simply because we know it would allow us to do a facility that's going to be a lot safer for the town of Nashville and for Nash County. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
What would be the total capacity for the jail after the renovation or additions? What would be your total capacity?
Mr. Boone helped me with that. I have too many numbers going through my head today. I had to pay everybody's taxes today, so.
Major Allen, do you have it
Give me a second, and I'll let you know, sir. Give me 1 second.
as compared to what it is now?
I do know it is projected it will last us a minimum of 20 years, as Mr. Boone said. And I honestly think with where we're looking forward, as far as we mentioned there, who we would actually have in the jail would be a much longer period than that. And in this design, we have a second phase that we would do. We wouldn't abandon it at that point. 20, 30 years down the road, there's another addition that we could do.
Sir, approximately 300, 306.
Compared to what now?
Yeah, so mine is the 94, so 212.
212,
Yes, sir.
306. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, council, let's move along, and let's look at this now that we've heard the public hearing on the request for the town to permanently close Elm Street between Drake Street and North Body Street and Court Street from Elm Street to 140 feet north of the Court Street and Elm Street intersection. The council can make a decision on the street closures at this meeting now at the time, since we've had our public hearing. If the council chooses to decide with this meeting to make a decision to close the portions of Elm Street and Court Street, then the attached resolution 2021-01 closing the streets must be adopted and filed with the Nash County Register of Deeds. This resolution also awards ownership of the closed street portions to Nash County and encumbers the property with permanent utilities easements for the water, the sewer, the storm sewer, the electric, and the telecommunication lines that exist on this property. And you have the resolution 2021 in your packets that you should have read, and the application for the right-of-way. So do I hear a motion at this time for the resolution 2021 and Nashville's giving the county right-of-way to this property?
I move that we table this for further consideration.
Do I hear a second?
I will in just a second, because I need to get this part out. So even if we're considering the road closure, on our page 6, you attached this procedure for permanently closing streets and alleys. And it states, when a city proposes to permanently close any street or public alley, the council shall first adopt a resolution declaring its intent to close the street or alley and calling a public hearing on the question. The resolution shall be published once a week for 4 consecutive weeks prior to the hearing. So before we can even adopt a resolution to actually close it, don't we need to adopt a resolution to publish for 4 weeks?
Well, we did publish the notice of intent to close 4 consecutive weeks.
But was it a resolution that was adopted by us?
It was not in resolution form, but it had the same content that the resolution would have had.
I think this clearly says that we shall first adopt a resolution declaring our intent to close it, and then publish a copy of that resolution. So even if we want to do this, I think we need to follow this procedure. Is everyone reading that first sentence? Page 6.
Yes.
Well, if it's written that we do it, then I see we don't have an
Yeah.
option.
So can we change this current resolution that we have here to say that is our intent to do the following,
Yes,
and then just publish this very resolution?
yes.
And also, I would like to add into the resolution, we're reserving public utilities, but I think we need to do so for private utilities too, for telephone and power. So just include that. And then 2, if the jail is relocated, demolished, or if that fenced-in area is no longer needed, I would like ownership to revert back to the town.
Any other input? Do I have a second to table on this until we can get all this done?
Are we, okay, so you're looking for a motion for this?
Motion, yeah.
So I'll second the tabling of approving it, and then I'll also make a motion that we adopt a resolution with the intent to close, publish that for 4 weeks. We can mull over the citizen comments, and any other issues that we have in that time, and then make a decision after this has been published as to whether or not we will go forward with the closure.
Do I hear a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, so it will be tabled and it will be, till this is out to the people. Okay?
So that means that at the February 2nd meeting, we'll have time to publish it 4 times again, and it'll be on the February 2nd.
Once a week for 4 successive weeks.
Yeah,
Okay.
so yes, it would be February the 2nd. Okay, let's move on to our next item. This is, it states, this is ordinance 2020-1, amending the town code for 2 regular council meetings a month. At the council's meeting on December the 1st, the council discussed and approved hosting 2 regular meetings per month, one on the first Tuesday and another on the third Tuesday. To maintain consistency with the town code, the council should vote to amend the code of ordinances to reflect these changes. An amendment has been drafted and is attached for the review and approval. And on that ordinance 2021, it states that be it enacted by the town council of the town of Nashville, Nash County, North Carolina as follows. Section 1, amended section, that Section 2-56, regular in Division 2 meetings in Article 2, Town Council of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Nashville is hereby amended to read as the follows. Section 2-56, regular. The Town Council shall hold a regular meeting on the first and third Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. in the Town Council chambers in the Harold D. Cluley Library and Town Council Chambers Complex, unless circumstances require a modification of either meeting date or place. By a majority vote, council may select an alternative meeting date or meeting place for the meetings. The second meeting of the month can be canceled if no staff item is scheduled for the second meeting, as reported to the town clerk by the town manager, and the town clerk received no items unanimously from the mayor or town council that requires discussion during the second meeting. Section 2, all ordinance or parts of ordinances in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall be in effect after its final passage, approval, and publication as provided by law. So we need to take a vote on this. Do I hear a vote that we make these changes according to the ordinance of the town code?
I move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Motion carries. Our next item on our agenda is granting DOT an easement on the town's water vault property. And I'll read this summary. The North Carolina Department of Transportation is proceeding with the Eastern Avenue Road widening project and is requesting a permanent utility easement on the town's water vault property at 2712 Eastern Avenue to relocate electric and telecommunication utilities onto the town's property. An easement map is attached in our information. A 4-lane roundabout will be constructed at the Eastern Avenue and Camlar Road intersection. The DOT has enough right-of-way on the Eastern Avenue right-of-way to build the roundabout without relocating the town's water vault, but it may need to relocate the overhead power line and the underground telecommunication lines onto the town's property to accommodate the roundabout. The water vault property is 50 feet by 50 feet and contains the water vault, its electrical service, and an instrument control panel. The power line and telecommunication relocations will not interfere with the water vault or its associated facilities, nor will it interfere with the town's access to the property. The North Carolina Department of Transportation is offering $250 payment in exchange for the easement. The offer is based upon an appraisal they commissioned on the property. The easement will give the Department of North Carolina Transportation and its agents the right to construct and maintain in an appropriate manner and upon and through said premises a utility line or lines with all necessary pipes, poles, and appurtenances, together with the right at all times to enter said premises for the purpose of inspecting said utility lines and making all necessary repairs and alterations thereon, together with the right to cut away and keep clear of said utility lines all trees and other obstructions that may in any way endanger or interfere with the proper maintenance and operation of the same, with the right at all times of ingress, egress, and regress. It will also give the DOT the right to construct and maintain, cut, and or fill slopes on the easement area, which will not affect the town's ability to assess the property. The town shall have the right to continue to use the easement area in any manner and for any purpose, including but not limited to the use of said area of access, ingress, and egress, and parking that does not, in the determination of DOT, obstruct or materially impair the actual use of the easement areas by the North Carolina Department of Transportation, its agents, assigns, and contractors. Now, that was a lot, and I know you understand it all, but anyway, I read it. I need a vote on that, council, to allow this easement offer and the map, and you have that in your packet. Do I have a motion that we grant this? Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mayor, I think it would be appropriate for the citizens here that are here listening to all that stuff you just read, and everybody understood every bit of it. Other than just getting the easement rights to the DOT, the town will also be getting a whole lot out of this project as far as our sewer lines and stuff extending out that way. So it's not.
There are a lot of positives for us.
There's a lot of positives in this deal. So it's not we just giving them what they want. We're getting a lot of the deal also.
Right. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's move on to our next item. That's a resolution to amend the Town of Nashville's personnel policy to provide local paid COVID sick leave for town employees. I'm going to read you the summary. On March 18, 2020, Congress passed and the President signed into law the Coronavirus Response Act, also known as the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. This act has two provisions. First, paid sick leave for all employees for 2 weeks up to 80 hours for one of 6 designated COVID-19 related reasons. 2, paid emergency family and medical leave for all employees for up to 12 weeks for designated COVID-19 related reasons related to child care. On May 5th, 2020, the Town Council approved an amendment to the personnel policy to include these provisions. These provisions were not extended by the recently passed stimulus bill and therefore expired on 12/3/20. With COVID-19 cases on the rise in our area, we are concerned about the impact that the exploration of the emergency paid sick leave, which is EPSL, benefit will have on our employees. Many other municipalities throughout our state also have this same concern and are creating additional policies to address this issue. Staff is requesting that a local paid COVID sick leave benefit to be created and allowed to be used in the same manner as the federally mandated emergency paid sick leave, EPSL. This new provision would provide up to 80 hours of paid sick leave to those employees who did not use the EPSL benefit in 2020. Those employees who exhausted the 80 hours under EPSL will not be eligible to use the local paid COVID sick leave. All remaining EPSL balances would convert to local paid COVID sick leave as of January 1st, 2021. This provision would expire June 30th, 2021 unless extended by the Town Council. Council, do I hear any questions about this?
The $88,000 that we received from the CARES Act, could any of that be used for this?
We have, I believe, Louise, going forward, however, we had to have all that money expended by December 31st of 2020. I think you did a really good job of, reimbursing expenses that we incurred that were eligible to be reimbursed for the COVID money. So going forward, any of the employees that didn't have it prior to the end of last calendar year would be eligible for this, and it would be basically at the town's expense.
Any other questions or input?
So is this gonna be another, fund balance cut deal? This will have to come out of fund balance, is that correct?
I don't believe so, Larry. I think our existing budget will be able to take this on without having to do any amendments. Probably have about an eighth to maybe a fourth of the employees have already used this, so they're not eligible for it anymore at this
Mhm.
point. Now, I can't guarantee that we won't have to amend the budget because of this, but at this point, it's not looking likely that we will.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion that we, Resolution 2021-02 is amended to the personnel policy of the town of Nashville?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Our next item on our budget is the employee cost of living adjustment. And I'll go through the summary of that issue. The FY-21 budget did not include a cost of living adjustment, which is a COLA, for town employees due to the uncertainty of revenues from the COVID-19 pandemic. At the time the budget was adopted, the council wanted to postpone consideration of a COLA until there was a better idea of the town's revenues. With 6 months of the fiscal year behind us, the town's revenues are coming in as budgeted, and the North Carolina League of Municipalities revenue forecasts show no projected drops in municipal revenues for the rest of 21, the fiscal year of 21. Our financial director has calculated the following COLA increases for our employees for the council to consider. And if we start retroactive in July, Fund 10, the general fund, it would be, for 2% would be $59,980. 2.5% would be $74,885, and 3%, $89,862. Fund 30, which is water and sewer, if we did the 2% COLA, it would be $10,025. 25, yeah. If we did the 2.5, it'd be $12,532. If we did the 3% COLA, it would be $15,039. And the total would be for 2%, $69,933. 2.5 would be $87,417, and 3% would be $104,900. Now, if we move it to be effective the 1st of January, the Fund 10 General Fund at 2% would be $29,954 at 2%. 2.5% would be $37,443, and 3% would be $44,931. The Fund 30 Water and Sewer at 2% would be $5,013. At 2.5 would be $6,266. At 3%, $7,519. So the total, if we started January the 1st, at 2% would be $34,967 cost to the town. At 2.5, it would be $43,709. And at 3%, it would be $52,450. The cost of living adjustments are needed to keep our employees pay competitive with other similar-sized towns in North Carolina. Even with pay increases, the council has been giving based on the annual wage and salary surveys the town conducts. COLAs are needed to keep employees' wages whole or protected from inflation. The addition, COLAs are excellent for maintaining employee morale and reassuring to employees that their job efforts and work are appreciated. Are there any comments, council, about this?
I would like to see the revenue projections. You indicated that revenue was coming in as budgeted, but our finance director is not here to present those
No,
revenues.
Sam is, unfortunately isn't here this evening, but, she's constantly monitoring that revenue and says where we are. At this point in the fiscal year, our revenues are actually slightly ahead of where they were last year this time. Now, we didn't budget a whole lot more revenue this year than we did the last fiscal year because of the uncertainty of COVID. So that's why the statements were made in the agenda report that the revenues are coming in. Our property taxes, we had concerns about those, obviously. People possibly being out of work because of COVID, not being able to pay their property taxes. They're not down at all. Utility payments are down slightly because we had the moratorium for six months there, and people are now having payment arrangements that couldn't afford to pay them during that moratorium, and they're catching up. So they're just a little bit below. But the only real revenue that's down for the town is the Powell money, because nobody's driving anywhere, and the motor fuel tax aren't being paid. With that exception, water and sewer revenues are right there, property taxes are right there, even our sales tax are right there, surprisingly.
What is the Powell bill? It's usually about $145,000. What is it?
This year we lowered it to 130, and the projected rate we're going will probably be at 125, 124. It's down.
The recommendation was made that we approve a 2% COLA effective January the 1st, 2021. Do I hear a motion for that?
Mayor, I move that we accept the manager's recommendation for the 2% effective January 1.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Our next item on our agenda is downtown directional public parking signs. The- What?
Have to let Randy read it.
I know. Randy, would you like to read this one? Give me a break.
Well, I'll summarize it.
Go ahead.
The Downtown Nashville Strong Advisory Board has been talking about how to enhance the utilization of the off-street parking that exists in the downtown area now. Approached Nash County, and the county manager has said that courthouse parking lot west of the courthouse, that the first row, the first couple rows could be reserved for downtown parking for people who want to go to the shops and the businesses downtown. So with that in place, then the conversation turned now, how do we get people into that so they know about it? So they came up with some ideas and looked at some different type of parking signs other towns do. And these are kind of, well, what you have in your packet, they're the top choice and the bottom choice. The difference is really background and then what color the letters are. I actually kind of prefer the bottom ones, where the lettering is white and the background is blue. But we priced these out through our local sign company here, which is great to work with.
And I appreciate you using our local company.
You can't hardly go wrong with
I
that.
know.
You really can't. And, you know, the signs themselves, the quote from Glasgow for the signs is $2,268. Obviously then, depending upon where we want to place these, we can put these on a Duke Energy street light, which we can. We checked into that, and there's an attachment agreement that we just have to execute with them. So that will take care of what we can do from Barn Street west. So as you're traveling west, Barn Street east, as you're traveling west on Washington Street, past the courthouse, past Body Street, somewhere in there, we would have public parking 1 block ahead. And then when you get to the Barn Street intersection, there would be a sign, one of these signs right there, parking, take a quick right, it's right here. And then coming up from the other way, from down below, by Church on the Rise and the insurance center there, we probably have to put in our own post because there isn't an appropriate place, a utility pole that we could attach our sign to. But, you know, it's no big deal. We got signposts all over. So what the Downtown Strong Advisory Board is recommending is that we spend, they're recommending to the council that up to $3,000 of the MSD money be spent to purchase and install these signs.
Do I hear a motion? Go ahead.
Sorry, I just had a question. When we first talked about it, I wasn't at the last MSD meeting. When we first talked about it, Randy, I know that the whole board was very interested in something that was a little bit more personalized. Just to give some examples of what they liked. Is this a tremendous amount of money over what has been proposed? It's
Well,
a little generic.
What we had discovered with Glasgow, that giant P, which is very attractive because of its three-dimensional, it's a very expensive thing, and then it's problematic on putting it.
No, I don't mean the giant P. I mean these that are just, it's a little bit just different. They're less generic. Like Wilmington, in fact, has like a little bit of a cityscape at the top of theirs with the parking sign on it. I know that those were the ones that we had originally given details on. I was just wondering if any of those had been shown to.
I was at the meeting, Kate, and I think, if I'm right, Randy, my understanding was that the MSD board did decide to go with this more generic, and the thinking behind it was that this was a little bit of a trial run
Okay.
to see how effective they were, and then potentially later look at something that's enhanced it a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, if it was more money, I would say definitely go with the cheaper. I was just wondering if it is greater money just to have one more color on here, or, something that makes it a little bit more personal to Nashville.
It is more money. How much more, I don't know, because I didn't ask Tim Glasgow to price those out, because like Lynn said, there was a consensus from the Downtown Strong Advisory Board that we don't know for sure if this is going to
Sure.
work.
I'm just seeing very large signs that we're now placing downtown. I'd like for them to be aesthetically pleasing, but if it's going to go well over that money amount, then I would go with this.
And we can always review them. I mean, you get into it, we put these up, and yes, it is effective in putting people, shoppers into that lot. We can always come back and look at, replacing them with something more aesthetically pleasing, a little fancier.
Is it worth just finding out what kind of cost we would be looking at to enhance these?
Again, yes.
I can email you the the few examples, just to know, because if it's only, you know, an extra few $100s, I would love to go with a prettier version that could be permanent instead of wanting to replace or add to.
But hadn't it, MSD board already,
They've
we have
made a
agreed-
recommendation to
yeah,
approve.
just a recommendation?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, all right.
So what is the desire of the board, the
You guys
council?
want a table going forward with these until we can get together with Ken Glasgow and find out the price for those, and then you can compare.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to table this?
So moved.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, this will be tabled, we'll take it up next time. Okay, the next item on our agenda is, some budget amendments, and I'll read through these for you. Budget Amendment 8 adds $14,364 in miscellaneous police, fire, library, and PRCR donations and grants to their respective department budgets for expenditure. Number 10 adds $37,500 from the water sewer fund balance to the water budget to cover the well number 6 $7,500 pump replacement and $20,000 for necessary fire hydrant replacements. The budget amendment number 11 adds $289,847 from the general fund balance for the Windy Oak Drainage Improvement Project and transfers $30,554 in stormwater capital reserves for the Windy Oak Drainage Improvement Project. Number 13 closes Fund 65, which was established for the construction of well number 8 in the West Nashville Commerce Park, but the well had poor quality water and was abandoned. Budget amendment number 14 adds the $88,767 the town received from Nash County in the coronavirus relief funds and puts into the general fund non-departmental budget for expenditure. Number 9 is not included as the council approved a $40,000 budget amendment November the 3rd, 2020 for the police and fire to repaint and upfit one LMTV truck and 3 trailers. Number 12 is not included as it is a line item transferred in the police department budget, moving $5,000 from the training to the drug enforcement for additional drug buy-in money for illegal drug stings. The town manager is authorized to make line item transfers not exceeding $5,000. Are there any questions on this? Do I hear a motion that we approve these budget amendments?
Move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 And the last item on our agenda is a resolution recommending adherence to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Whereas the North Carolina General Assembly has adopted Article 1A of Chapter 166A of the General Statutes entitled North Carolina Emergency Management Act, which sets for the authority and responsibility of the governor, state agencies, and local governments in prevention of, preparation of, response to, and recovery from the natural or man-made emergency. And whereas GS 166A-19.22 and GS 166A-19.31, which are part of the North Carolina Emergency Management Act, authorize counties and municipalities to declare states of emergency and authorizes counties and municipalities to impose prohibitions and restrictions under conditions and following procedures contained in GS 166A-19.22 and GS 166A-19.31. And whereas the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, is a global pandemic that is easily transmitted from person to person, that has created a state of emergency in the state of North Carolina, county of Nash County. And whereas Nash County signed a proclamation of state of emergency on March 16, 2020, and whereas the Centers for Disease Control Prevention, CDC, has determined that COVID-19 is spread primarily between people in close proximity to one another and can be transmitted through respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or talks, and recommends social distancing to prevent the continued spread of the virus. And whereas slowing and controlling community spread is critical to ensure health care facilities can meet the demands of those needing health care and not overwhelm the system. And whereas CDC recommends wearing a face covering or non-surgical protection face mask in public settings, practicing social distancing, and washing one's hands frequently as measures designed to help slow down or prevent the spread of the virus and to prevent individuals who may be infected and unaware from transmitting the virus to others. And whereas the number of laboratory confirmed positive cases in the state and in Nash County continue to climb as do the numbers of deaths related to the virus, but social distancing continues to decline. And whereas on June 26, 2020, William Hill, Nash County Health Director, made a plea to county residents to continue to wear a mask, wash their hands often, and wait at least 6 feet from others. And whereas in consideration of all the current available data related to the impact of COVID-19 in Nash County, the Nashville Town Council stands in agreement with the Nash County Board of Commissioners that due to the recent trends, it is in the best interest of the residents of the town to issue this resolution recommending the following conditions to slow the spread of COVID-19. Now therefore, be it resolved that this resolution recommends and encourages all Nash County residents, especially those in the town of Nashville, as well as visitors to the area, to maintain the recommended social distance, practice proper hand washing procedures, and or use sanitizer frequently, and wear a face mask, covering or protecting face masks when in the public places. Do I hear a motion that we adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Council, do any of you have any comments?
I have one quick one, Mayor. We all, I think, received an email from the North Carolina League of Municipalities related to their legislative goal statements, and they asked, I don't know whether we've done this in the past or not, Randy, but that each municipality designate a voting member and their recommended goal statements to be voted on by that voting member and submitted to the League of Municipalities. I'm just curious to know if the board is interested in doing that. I have a copy printed, and I can forward to you by email or otherwise what they are, but I think there was a January deadline for getting a voting delegate from our council for that purpose.
I nominate Lynn Hobbs.
I was second. No, I was just, do I hear a second?
Oh, second.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
So you will be our representative on that. Thank you so much. Well, this is the conclusion. No, it's not the conclusion. It's goodbye to you, but we have to, we recess from a closed session and we have to return to our closed session. But thank you so much for coming out. Stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Mayor, before we recess back into that, do we want to hear what manager's report?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, I was
Yes.
going to erase you right off. I'm sorry.
I wanted to remind you about the drop-in workshop. We're having a second one on our comp plan coming up January 13th. And this is an opportunity for the public to have input into our comprehensive plan. You know, this is the plan that's going to guide our development for the next 7 to 10 years. And it gives the town residents an opportunity to show where they would like to see certain types of development happen within the town.
So Randy, just for clarification, when we talk about community, are we talking strictly about the residents, or can we have business owners who operate in town who would like to participate in this?
Absolutely.
Last
So
time
it's
we
it's
had
our
survey.
community. It's everybody and
Yeah.
anybody who has an investment in Nashville. So
And
please
how are we
come.
gonna advertise that, Randy, to the public?
Well, Sherry, I'll let you tell
Okay.
what you have done thus far.
So far, I did send all the information to the graphics, so they have that, and I'll be sending also information to the Telegram. I'll be sending that information tomorrow.
And we put some of those in the windows the last time downtown.
Yeah.
Yes, and, I covered, MSD and the Downtown Strong Committee, so everybody can distribute those as well. And I've also sent it to all the department heads, and so the department heads can send it to their advisory board.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Because we're doing this during a crisis, the virus, I would like that we keep up with the numbers of people that actually participate, because people are hesitant to come out to these meetings. And we're making big decisions about a comprehensive plan, and if you don't have a lot of people participating with input, then, it's a problem. So we need to keep up with how
We
many
have
people
surveys
attend.
too, right?
Yeah,
I
there's
think
online.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, the survey is online, and I think last count, there were 159 completed surveys. We're also planning on doing, a couple days in advance, a social media blast. I mean, we have the town's Facebook page, fire department, police department, park and rec, and library, and they all have their followers. Did you mention that? Oh, okay.
Our water bill, have we gone to envelopes yet, or is it still on the postcard?
It's still on the postcard yet, though.
Okay.
We're getting the new software, activated
Okay.
at this time, which, Sam is especially nervous about not being in the office for that, and we have it scheduled and it's happening, and,
To Louise's point, I was just hoping that maybe we could get the survey out to, actually, we could do that even after the comprehensive, after the workshop. If we could get the survey out to every water bill,
Yeah.
then they could just mail it back in or drop it off.
Right.
the goal is to, by October, have the plan wrapped up and ready to present to the council for adoption. And, we'll have public hearings on that when we get to that point, and hopefully more input. So, the only other thing I want to, the two meetings a month, we do have a special use permit application that, we will be having a public hearing, a joint public hearing that of the council and the planning board for November 27th at 7 p.m.
November
November.
27th?
I'm sorry, January 27th.
Oh, okay, okay.
Way off.
That's a Wednesday, right?
And, it's on a daycare, in-home daycare application. I don't imagine that public hearing is gonna go very long, but, when that public hearing is over, the planning board will meet. One of the things on their agenda, and I mentioned this to you guys in my manager's report, Chapter 160D, last year when it was adopted and put into place by the General Assembly, has specific provisions in there that towns and municipalities and counties can have advisory boards give recommendations on special use permits, but you can't take those recommendations into consideration when you make the decision. Therefore, what's really the point of
What's the
having a
reason,
planning board?
what's the reason?
That is crazy.
So, what the planning board has on their agenda for the 27th is to consider giving the town council a recommendation to no longer do joint public hearings on special use permits, and the planning board would have nothing to do with those. It would ultimately have a public hearing, before the town council on rezonings. We would go the route of, the planning board would have their own public hearing on the rezoning request, and then a week later, the town council would have a public hearing on the same rezoning request. Sherry and I feel as if that would give the public an opportunity to attend two different public hearings. If they couldn't attend one, they could attend the other, and still have a chance to have their voice heard with regard to rezonings.
Randy, did you get the letters sent out to the residents out in Indian Trail about the extension on getting the buyouts?
I did
Progress.
not, but I started on that this afternoon, and those will be out by the end of the week. What we heard back from the Office of Restructuring and Resiliency with regard to petitioning and seeking a special buyout, flood buyout for some of our residents in Indian Trails, is that they're in the process, they're very busy with COVID-19 stuff, and the survey that we're going to do door to door to determine that that target area is eligible income-wise, they want it to be as fresh as it can be when they give it consideration. So they're recommending we hold off doing that door-to-door survey till May or June and then submit. By then, they're hoping the pandemic with the vaccinations in place will be winding down, and they will have time to take a look at our request.
How many homes are in question?
There are
13,
19.
19, 13 or 19?
19. And not every one of those has been devastated with flooding, but all 19, when Stony Creek does flood and that part of Indian Trail gets inundated, you can't get to and from their house from the street, because the street's underwater.
Thank you. Any other questions or input? If not, we'll recess back to our, go back to our closed session. Again, thank you for coming out tonight.